Battleship USS Iowa is the last lead ship of any class of United States battleships. So today, let's go to the Iowa parked in the Los Angeles harbor together and take a look.
The Iowa-class ships were a class of fast battleships ordered by the United States Navy and built in the New York, Philadelphia, and Norfolk naval shipyards. As its lead ship, the USS Iowa BB-61 started construction in June 1940 and finished in February 1943. Three other Iowa-class battleships are the New Jersey, the Missouri, and the Wisconsin. It may be confusing with all the names of states, but the U.S. Navy typically names great ships after states. All four of the ships officially retired by 1992. But before that, from 1943 to 1990, the USS Iowa fought in three major U.S. wars. During World War II, she carried President Franklin D. Roosevelt across the Atlantic to attend the Tehran Conference. And in 1945, next to the Missouri, the Iowa also served as the Third Fleet flagship at the Japanese surrender in Tokyo Bay.
Actually shelled the Japanese coast a few times. That allowed, probably took some pressure off China in terms of pulling manpower that they would have liked to stay or allowed to stay in China, but they had to go fight the Americans as we were island hopping up towards Japan's home islands. And Iowa was also right next to the Missouri when they signed the surrender declaration. She was the lead communication ship, actually. So she was close with all the allies that helped sign or also signed the surrender declaration.
I enjoyed being aboard the USS Iowa. I was aboard it when the peace treaty was signed in Tokyo Bay. We relieved the USS Missouri, and then we stayed in Japan for a little while, and then came back into we came back into Bremerton, Washington, back into the United States. But I enjoyed every minute I was aboard it.
We celebrate the arrival of the USS Iowa in Los Angeles.
In 2012, after decades of action and several stints with mothballs, the USS Iowa has finally found a new home at the port of Los Angeles in San Pedro. There, the mighty battleship became a museum. At the opening ceremony on July 4, 2012, the then mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, President Roosevelt's great-granddaughter, the governor of the state of Iowa, and a crowd of more than 1,500 supporters and veterans came to the Iowa and celebrated. 3 days later, battleship USS Iowa officially opened to the public.
We have most of the upper decks are open, at least the exterior decks. We have the officers' wardroom, the senior officers' staterooms, also the bridge area, the captain's import cabin, where, for example, President Roosevelt and other VIPs, important people, would have stayed and receptions took place. We have the flag bridge further up, open on the ship. And then as you go further aft, we have an example of an enlisted berthing area. We call them racks, coffin racks is their nickname. And then you go back into the listed galley, or the kitchen, so to speak. We have a museum area and a gift shop.
Battleship USS Iowa is about 887 feet long and weighs more than 45,000 tons. Her main battery consisted of 9 406.4mm caliber Mark 7 guns. At the time of their use, they could fire 2,700-pound armor-piercing shells. She was modernized in the 1980s and was the first battleship to receive the RQ-2 Pioneer Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. Now on the USS Iowa Museum, there are many veteran volunteers as docents on board, telling visitors the history and stories about Iowa.
The ship, for the most part, is fairly original. There were some changes on the exterior, but the original, engine rooms, the gun turrets, so it's wonderful to have the ship, real, instead of looking at a picture, you have the real thing here.
In the next few years, the USS Iowa will open more areas of the ship to the public, including the post office, the machine room, and even the engine room and boiler room. Then people can learn more about this historic battleship.